Most people walk into their first AA meeting having no idea what they're walking into. And that's not your fault. Nobody tells you. The format, the language, the things on the wall, all can feel like you stopped in a room where everyone knows something and you don't. Well, we're going to try to fix some of that today. Again, hello and welcome to The Recovering Therapist. I'm a licensed clinical social worker with over 25 years of practice in the addiction and recovery arena. I've been sober for over 30 years myself. Today I want to talk about something that stops a lot of people before they even get started, that first meeting. This is not a video about whether AA is right for you. That's a whole different conversation. What I do want to do today is simply take some of the mystery out of it so that if when you walk through the door, you're walking in with your eyes wide open. We're going to cover how to actually find a meeting, what you'll see when you walk in, how a meeting is typically structured, what's hanging on the walls, and what does it mean? How different locations can feel different from each other, and what you actually need to say, and more importantly, what you absolutely don't have to say. So let's start at the very beginning, basically finding a meeting. The easiest way today is to go on to AA's website, aa.org. There you'll find a meeting finder where you can enter your zip code, and that will show you where the meetings are in your area. It will give you the days and times, the locations, and the types of meetings. And we'll talk about the different types of meetings here in a minute. You can also call AA's intergroup, which is kind of that centralized office. Most big cities have a intergroup. Generally, a real person will answer, or at least there'll be a message there for you to leave a voicemail and they can call you back. They'll give you advice of where the closest meeting is to you, and maybe even if you need a ride, they can figure that out for you as well. What I know for me, the finding part felt harder than it actually was. Primarily, the barrier was in my head, not the logistics. The meetings are there, and they're generally not too difficult to find. Now let's talk a little bit about meeting types, because sometimes that's where people can get confused. The first type of meeting is called an open meeting, and they're open to anyone. You don't have to identify yourself as an alcoholic. You can go with a family member or a friend, someone who's just kind of curious. I know for me in graduate school, one of our assignments was to attend an AA meeting for homework. And again, I think an open meeting was the appropriate meeting for that. If this is the first time you're not sure about anything, an open meeting is where I would suggest maybe you start. Next is called a closed meeting, and these are for people who identify themselves as having a problem with alcohol. That's it. That's the only requirement. Remember, the only requirement for AA membership is a desire to stop drinking. That's it, full stop. Next different type of meeting is called a speaker meeting, and that's generally one or two people kind of share their personal story. You basically sit there and listen. Discussion meetings are the most common, where a topic is introduced and people share their experiences around that. There are also big book and step meetings, and generally the group is going to read something out of one of AA's foundational texts, whether that's Alcoholics Anonymous or the 12 and 12. And then they discuss around that. There's also gender-specific meetings, which can provide a level of security for some. For your first meeting, I would certainly recommend an open meeting and make that maybe even a speaker meeting, because again, there you're just going to sit and listen and you don't have to say anything. So you found the meeting. You've shown up. Now what? Well, kind of first the physical space. This varies more than most people expect, and I want to prepare you for that. First is the church meeting, and generally it's usually down in a church basement somewhere, and they're probably the most common locations, especially in the small communities. Usually you'll walk down a flight of stairs. There'll be folding chairs, sometimes in a circle, sometimes in a row, or maybe a combination of both. There will be a table near the door with literature on it, have pamphlets, meeting schedules, and maybe even a big book. And there will most certainly be coffee. Again, institutional coffee in a big metal urn. Probably not the best coffee you've ever had, but go ahead and take some. It's part of the experience. Understanding this space is borrowed, the church provides the room, usually at no cost. And AA groups use it for an hour. Because of that, you may notice some religious imagery on the walls, a cross, stained glass window. But that really has nothing to do with the AA meeting itself, because AA is a spiritual program, not a religious one. That distinction really does matter, and it's something that you'll want to explore further. If you feel like that's something you would like to hear about, I'd be more than happy to make a video. Just let me know. Second type of meeting I want to talk about are clubhouse meetings, and they feel a little bit different. These are spaces owned or leased by the AA community, dedicated entirely to recovery. When you walk into a clubhouse, you immediately feel that this is a home base for the people who use it. The chairs are often a little more comfortable. You may even see a sofa somewhere. There's a kitchen and sometimes some food. There's a library of AA literature, phone list, bulletin board. People sitting around before the meeting and after the meeting. They're just kind of hanging out talking. Kind of the feedback I've gotten from newcomers in my practice is they find a clubhouse can be a little more overwhelming at first. There's a social layer that you don't necessarily find in the church basement. But over time, that social layer actually becomes a more valuable part of recovery. Both environments are valid. Both can hold something important for you. So let's talk a little bit about what to expect once the meeting starts. Generally, all the meetings kind of open in a similar way. They follow a similar format, although there could be some variations depending on the meeting type. Here's kind of what you'll typically experience. The meeting will open. Someone, usually a chairperson for that meeting, calls it to order. Sometimes there's a moment of silence, and that's usually followed up with a serenity prayer, and it's recited by everyone. You will hear the words, "God, grant me the serenity to accept the things I cannot change, the courage to change the things I can, and the wisdom to know the difference." You don't have to say it. You can simply sit quietly. No one there is watching you. Generally, the AA preamble is then read. This is a short statement that describes AA and what it is and what it is not. It typically begins with Alcoholics Anonymous is a fellowship of people who share their experience, strength, and hope with each other. It lasts about a minute. Listen to it. It tells you everything you need to know about what AA is and what it isn't. It tells you everything you need to know about the philosophy of the room. Readings from AA literature usually follow. Depending on the meeting type, someone may read passages from the Big Book, the Promises, Daily Reflections, or generally they read How It Works, which is an outline of the 12 steps. These readings are done by a volunteer. You will not be called on to read unless you raise your hand and volunteer. Then we get some announcements, birthday, milestones, upcoming events. If someone is celebrating a sobriety anniversary, 1 day, 30 days, a year, 20 years, this is where it may be acknowledged, usually with some applause. Sometimes with a chip or a coin that represents the milestone. Some meetings will add introductions going around the room, and I will discuss how to handle that in just a minute. Then we generally have the share, whether that's the discussion meeting or the speaker meeting or whatever that is. And this is the heart of the meeting. This is where the people speak. In a speaker meeting, 1 or 2 people will tell their story of how it was, what happened, and what it's like now. In a discussion meeting, a topic is introduced and anyone who wants to share will raise their hand. And then the meeting will close, usually with the Lord's Prayer, the Serenity Prayer again, or both. People often stand in a circle and hold hands for this. Again, you can participate or simply stand quietly. Both are fine. The whole thing generally takes about an hour. During the meeting, a basket is passed and donations are requested. Usually you can put in $1. Don't feel obligated, but if you do, add $1. Now the walls. Because I've been in a lot of AA rooms over 30 years, and I've noticed newcomers spend a lot of time reading the walls, particularly out of curiosity, and because it gives them something to do if they're a little nervous. So let me tell you what you're looking at. Generally at the front of the room are the 12 steps. Almost every AA room have these posted. It's usually on a big banner or a frame poster. The 12 steps are a suggested program of recovery for AA. You don't have to do anything with them today. You don't have to agree with them, understand them, fear them, judge them, or commit to them. They are simply there. Read them when you're ready. Next to those are the 12 traditions. These are the operating principles of AA as an organization. They kind of govern the group's functions. Again, they're there for context, not as an assignment. Quite frankly, I find them kind of boring. You'll often see the Serenity Prayer, and usually it's everywhere. It's on the wall, it's on keychains, it's on coffee mugs. It's short. It's been around since the 1940s. A lot of people in recovery, myself included, have found it useful, not as a religious text, but as a practical framework. The challenge is accept what you can't change what you can, and know the difference. And that's good clinical advice. And then around the walls in the rooms, you'll have the slogans. And this part can be confusing for newcomers the most, because there's a lot of them. 1 day at a time, easy does it, first things first, keep it simple, let go, let God, live and let live. This too shall pass. Understand these are not rigid rules. They're compressed pieces of wisdom that the recovery community has found useful over time. Think of them as shorthand. Each one is a reminder of a larger principle. Over time, certain ones begin to mean something specifically to you. And what I know for me, 1 day at a time was the one that I kept coming back to in early recovery and still use it today. It's focusing on today, not forever, just today. I've done a separate video on the slogans and I will drop a link in the end of the video for you. Next, you'll see a literature table with meeting schedules. Typically find some pamphlets on there. Feel free to take. Generally, pamphlets are on Is AA for You, 12 Steps Illustrated, What is a Sponsor, some other things. There also may be a schedule for other meetings in the area. Take what you want and leave the rest. Taking what you want and leaving the rest is probably sound advice for the whole meeting as well. So here's one of the questions that I hear most often. What do I say? Here's the most important thing I can tell you. You don't have to say anything. At most meetings, when it comes time to share, the chairperson will ask if anyone is new or if there are any visitors. You can simply say, I'm new. That's it. That's the whole sentence. And you'll probably find that the room welcomes you warmly, and then the meeting continues. Some meetings where they go around the room and introduce themselves as an alcoholic, giving their first name, and everybody responds back. Again, you don't have to follow that pattern if you don't choose to. I just would recommend that if it comes to you, you would give your name and just say, I'm here to listen. Nobody's going to judge you. Nobody's going to think differently of you. They're going to appreciate the fact that you're there and that you're at least trying to take the step to see what this is about. But also understand that if you do identify yourself or they recognize you as someone new, the topic will probably shift over to how everybody else got into the rooms. I would challenge you to look for the similarities and not the differences. It's easy to find the differences and say, I shouldn't be here. And we dismiss and minimize, and we don't really see the similarities. And that's really the important piece here. Again, I would challenge you to look for the similarities and not focus on the differences. And again, if you don't even want to say that, you don't have to. You can just pass. You can sit quietly for the entire meeting, drink your coffee, and listen. And that's a completely legitimate way to attend an AA meeting. I've seen people do that for months before they even spoke their first single word. And those meetings still had value for them. If you want to introduce yourself, the traditional format is, hi, say your name, and I'm an alcoholic. And the room responds, hi, with your name. That's it. No applause, no follow-up, no questions. No one's going to put you on the spot. If you don't want to follow that format, that's okay. Just say your name, and I'm here to listen. Kind of reflecting back for me, the first time I said those words out loud, the room was full of people, something shifted. Not because of the words themselves, but because I felt like I said them and I was still welcome. That's the thing about AA. The room doesn't flinch. You don't have to be ready to commit to anything. You don't have to believe everything you hear. You don't have to come back. You just have to show up that one and see what the room feels like. I do want to mention the 24-hour chip. It's tradition in AA that a newcomer who's coming in or someone who's coming back from a relapse will be offered a 24-hour chip at the end of the meeting. It signifies that you're going to try to stay sober for the next 24 hours. If you feel comfortable and you'd like to take a chip, please feel free to do so. If you're not ready to take the chip, that's okay. Nobody's going to judge you there. They understand what your challenges are and what you're going through. Just be aware that that opportunity generally is offered at the end of the meeting. From a clinical standpoint, here's what I want you to take away. That first meeting is not an audition. It's not a test. It's not a commitment. It's simply information gathering. You're going to the room to see whether the people in it have something that might be useful for you. I would challenge you not to treat it as absolutes. If there was one or two things that were not comfortable for you, then you dismiss the whole meeting. I would challenge you to look for it and see, okay, what was helpful for me and how can I use this stuff in order to move forward. There are always going to be some things in life that kind of rub us the wrong way, and that's okay. Everybody has their opinion and everybody has their thoughts. Those are okay. The important piece is that you're there and you're looking for those things that are going to help you in recovery. What we know in decades of research is that social connection and shared experience are powerful forces in recovery. Not the only forces, but they're powerful ones. The act of sitting in a room with people who understand without having to explain yourself has measurable effect on isolation, shame, and the nervous system. And you don't have to believe that going in. The biology works whether you believe it or not. Feelings are not facts. The fear that you feel before walking in is real, but it's not the reliable predictor of what happens when you get in there. Many of the people I've worked with over the past years have said the same thing after attending their first meeting, and that was, it wasn't what I expected. Usually they mean that in a good way. I would argue the most important meeting you ever go to is your first one, not because it fixes everything, but because walking through that door, that one door, is proof that something in you is still fighting, still reaching. That part of you that drove to the parking lot, that found the address, that showed up tonight, that part deserves a chance. Don't let the fear make the decision for you. The door opens from the outside. All you have to do is push. So find a meeting, walk in, grab some coffee, read the walls, stay for an hour, put your buck in the basket if you want, and then decide what you think. One more thing before I go. You don't have to have it all figured out before you walk through that door. Nobody in that room ever did. The only thing that anyone encouraged me to do when I walked in that first time was to keep coming back. So wherever you are today, that is enough to start. So if this was helpful, please subscribe so you don't miss on what's coming up in the series. And if you have any questions, leave them in the comments. I'll see you at the next video. Stay safe.